And I get it. Chances are you worked pretty hard, maybe even spent some money to build up that list of subscribers. Or if you have only organic subscribers, it took a long time and that list may not be as large as some others. So every subscriber feels precious. But as with so many things in this business, there's no reason to be precious about this. Every unengaged subscriber is costing you, both in money and in things that are harder to measure.
Hey there, I'm Tammy. I'm the newsletter ninja who translates all that internet marketer stuff into strategies that work for you. I've been doing this indie author marketing thing for the better part of a decade now, and I understand your author newsletter needs, from list building to automation to managing unsubscribes. I've got you, fam.
Hey there, I'm Tammy, and I happen to be a ninja. If you're new to the channel, heck, I'm new to the channel, I'm writing books and teaching courses and now making videos showing you how to optimize your author mailing list because you're an author, not a marketer, and your mailing list can't be your full-time job. I'm also just going to give you a minute of off-topic straight talk before we dive in. I'm going to be totally upfront with you, which is pretty on brand for me anyway, and tell you that there are lots of times I've got stuff to say and I don't record a video because, oh my God, look at me, I can't go on video like this. The thought of trying to do something with my hair and figure out if I even know where my makeup is when I haven't been out of the house in 2 years, it's just been daunting. So let's strike a bargain. I'll produce more content without worrying about my face, and you guys will kindly refrain from telling me I have eyebrows like Matt Smith, which is to say no eyebrows at all. Deal? Give me a who needs eyebrows anyway down in the comments, and let's dive in. I recently sent out a poll to my mailing list and my Facebook group asking them what topics they wanted me to cover in my newsletters and my YouTube videos. At least a few people were interested in just about everything, but there were some clear winners, and I'll definitely be getting to those as I record more of these videos. Bear with me as we start sort of erratically. My schedule is a total hot mess. And check the description below for a link if you'd like to vote in that poll as well. And be sure to hit subscribe and the little bell next to it so you get notified as I work my way through the requested topics. Today, we're going to talk about list hygiene. Sounds pretty innocuous, and it's recommended by pretty much every email marketing professional in the universe. But I'm here to tell you that it's actually kind of controversial in some circles, and I'm going to be taking a pretty hard line on it. Surprise. So be ready for that. By the time we're done, I want you to know that 1, it's not just okay, but desirable to clean your list. 2, I want you to feel confident that you can do it. And I want you to start the process because it is an ongoing process. Even if you completely automate it, which I have done, you still have to check in from time to time and make sure everything's behaving as it should. So let's start at the beginning. What is list hygiene and why do you have to do it? Very briefly, list hygiene is the process of identifying unengaged subscribers and removing them from your author mailing list. What parameters you select to define unengaged is going to depend on your own circumstances, like how often you send, what engagement metrics you track, your current open and click rates, how big your list is, how old your list is, et cetera, et cetera. And how you remove them will depend on your email marketing service. The 2 services I use most, ActiveCampaign and MailerLite, have both a kind of quick and easy way and a dig in and get your hands dirty way. But let's also cover the objections real quick. When I talk to people about list hygiene, I am, as I'm sure you can imagine, a real hit at parties. I generally get some pushback around a couple of key questions. First, what if people are reading my emails and I just can't see that? And second, what if they might open an email after I unsubscribe them? But here's the thing, those questions are fear-based, and making business choices out of fear is always a terrible idea. That fear comes from a place of thinking that if you clean these subscribers off your list, something terrible will happen. Drop a comment below if you struggle with that fear. If you worry that scrubbing your list will make your next launch worse or whatever that specific fear is, let me know below. I think you'll find that you're not alone. And I get it. chances are you worked pretty hard, maybe even spent some money to build up that list of subscribers. Or if you have only organic subscribers, it took a long time and that list may not be as large as some others. So every subscriber feels precious. But as with so many things in this business, there's no reason to be precious about this. Every unengaged subscriber is costing you, both in money and in things that are harder to measure. They're literally costing you money because most of us are paying our email service monthly or yearly based on subscriber count. If you clean up your list, chances are that amount is going to go down. Do it. Get that money. Additionally, they're costing you something less tangible and harder to measure. Your sender reputation and deliverability, and subsequently your engagement metrics, get worse as your number of unengaged subscribers increases. See, how reputation works is basically this. The subscriber's email provider, let's say it's Gmail, because let's face it, it's mostly Gmail, receives your newsletter email and evaluates where it should place that email. You've got options like primary inbox, promotions, and updates in Gmail. All providers have spam option, of course. Some providers have a junk mail designation, and that's sometimes more like the Gmail promotions tab and sometimes more like spam, depending. Some emails go directly to the trash, which is alarming. And some emails, if they look like really bad news, they just don't arrive at all. Gmail or whoever just tosses them right in the oubliette.
This is an oubliette.
You don't want to be in the oubliette, but you don't want to be in trash or spam or even promotions either. And a student recently told me that someone told her that it was totally fine to end up in promotions because at least that means it was delivered. That is not true. But I don't have time to get into it today. I'll get into that in a video I'm doing soon that examines email tool testers' most recent deliverability test results from April. Hit subscribe and the bell, wherever those are, if you want to be sure you see that. But back to inbox placement. If you want to land in subscriber inboxes, you need to be aware that every email you send is evaluated. It's evaluated on the way in and then sent to one of the designations I mentioned above. And then, and this is the important part, whatever action people take or don't on that email becomes a data point that Gmail or whoever uses to decide what to do with the next email you send. And not just the next email you send to that specific subscriber. What that subscriber does affects, to a small degree, what the receiving inbox does with all your emails to any subscriber. Here's a graphic from ConvertKit that you can screenshot if you like, explaining how certain actions affect your sender reputation. So if enough people simply don't even open your emails, Gmail decides that people don't seem to be much interested in your emails, and it delivers more of them to promotions or spam, or eventually just doesn't deliver them at all. One person's actions affects everyone else's. This will be familiar to those of you who have studied moral philosophy or watched The Good Place.
I am here to learn about ethnics.
I really wanted to make a cool moral philosophy analogy here where spam filters were moral absolutists and the rest of us were, I don't know, maybe contractualists, but I couldn't make it work because moral philosophy is hard. So onward. So you don't want a bunch of non-openers hanging around on your list, dragging down your engagement metrics and creating a downward spiral where more and more of your emails are landing in places other than actual inboxes until eventually even the people who frequently open and interact with your emails stop seeing them at all. And that's not even getting into spam traps, which is a whole other thing. If your list gets old enough and you're not cleaning it, you will end up sending to a repurposed spam trap. Not the worst thing until it happens a few times, at which point you're going to the oubliette, my friend.
She's in the oubliette.
Another topic we haven't even touched on, and which is too big for this video, but which I obviously have to mention, is the changes in Apple's privacy protocols since the release of iOS 15. I stand by my belief that more privacy is a good thing, even if it's inconvenient for me when I'm wearing my marketer hat. But it does put a wrinkle in things because we can no longer rely on open rate reporting from Apple. Again, I don't want to get too deeply into it, but for those of you who don't know, there were basically two changes. The first, and the one that's gotten the most attention, is that Apple now loads tracking pixel and other image information as soon as an email is received in an email inbox in any native Apple email app. That was a tongue twister. This means that every email with the parameters I tongue twisted my way through just then is reported as having been opened as soon as it was received. So you just have no line of sight whatsoever to open rates for Apple subscribers. It's annoying, to be sure, but you work around it and that's fine. But another feature of the iOS 15 update was that Apple gave its users the ability to create disposable alias email addresses that they can abandon whenever they like. So you will, without question, have more subscribers truly falling out of engagement as they discard the phony email they used to download your reader magnet or whatever. But due to the false opens, you will not be able to see that they fell out of engagement. They will look as though they are opening every email. You have to have a way to test if those people are still engaged, and you have to get rid of them if they are not. Now, to address those two questions I mentioned earlier, what if they're reading and I can't see? They're not. There's this prevalent myth that subscribers have these ways to open their email without really opening it. The most common one people mention is the preview pane in some email inboxes. Well, first, upwards of 90% of your people are using Gmail on the web or on their phones, and there is no preview pane. Second, I've done re-engage and purge sequences for dozens of authors, some of them multiple times, and what I've found is that around 1 to 3% of subscribers re-engage during this process. Most of them say, I've just been busy, but please don't remove me. And a tiny number of them say, I read every email you send. Even assuming that they are all telling the truth, it is a vanishingly small percentage of subscribers. And I'm not going to make business decisions based on, at best, 0.5% of my subscriber base. And anyway, if you do a re-engagement or win-back campaign before you purge inactive subscribers, that will catch those people. As for the second question, what if they open an email after I unsubscribe them? Well, just give them a link to sign back up if they want to. But what if they don't want to go to the trouble of signing back up? I would say an ideal subscriber wouldn't not read however emails it takes for you to qualify them as engaged, then not read your re-engagement emails, then finally open the unsubscribe email, and then decide it's too much trouble to type in their email address again. And as I said a minute ago, I'm not going to make my business decisions around that person. Your mileage may vary, of course, but I want a list full of ride or dies. A giant list made up mostly of people who don't open is just not going to get you where you need to go. There are a lot of folks in this space who are happy to tell you something different, but remember, most of the people giving you advice on any topic really are basing their claims on data from their own lists. That person is one author, one data point. I'm sure what they say is true for their sample size, but I'm testing this all the time on multiple lists of varying sizes and in various genres for my pen names, my students, and my one-on-one clients. I'm working with lots of data points, not pulling numbers out of my butt or telling you what works for me will definitely work for you. I feel like every time I do a Q&A or one of these YouTube videos, I end up saying the same thing. I'm not so much trying to tell you what to do. I'm trying to tell you how to decide what you should do. And you shouldn't do what someone else says just because they say it very confidently. Look at the data. Ask how they drew the conclusion. I'm not here to tell you do what I do or even do what this successful client of mine does. You can't execute someone else's plan for their books and audience on your books and audience and expect it to work. And as I've said elsewhere, and I certainly didn't think it up myself, best practices are just aggregate information. Aggregate information will, by its very nature, include bad information. That's why I always say test everything. I'll tell you what I've seen, and I've seen more than most, but it always comes down to testing your own info because someone else's practices aren't necessarily going to work for you, even if they work for them. And as much as I hate to say it, a lot of the time it isn't working for them either. I honestly do not say this to throw shade, but almost without exception, when someone tells me they never cull their list and it's perfectly healthy, I meander over to Amazon and look at their books and find that even books that have been out for months have reviews in like the single digits. Now, I'm the last person who's going to rank shame anyone. Check out the ranks on the fiction that I publish under my own name. And even hit books eventually fall in ranks. I don't think you can tell a lot from that number, but the review situation in particular tells me that's not a healthy list. It's just not. A healthy list ought to have enough fans on it to get you a double handful of reviews in months. So all that to say, collect your own data, try different bits of advice, see what works. I always dole out a healthy dose of it depends on your situation. But my clients, as well as my own personal experiences, tell me that if you start making list hygiene part of your newsletter approach, you will find yourself with a healthier, more supportive, and more engaged list. So here's what I want you to do today. Go set up a list hygiene sequence, segment out your cold subscribers, and start them through it. Once you've done that, make sure that you either put a reminder on your calendar and do it regularly or automate it, because yes, you can completely automate list hygiene, but that's way too much to cover in a YouTube video, especially since this is already quite long. It's never as hard to do list hygiene as it is the first time, and is never hard at all if it's totally automated. If you're still not sure entirely how to do it, or you'd just like some specific tips and tricks, I am doing a free live webinar on list hygiene in preparation for opening my advanced automations course. As always, I'll present the webinar live several times over the course of the week to try and give everyone a chance to attend, no matter what their time zone is. The first is this Saturday, so head over to newsletterninja.net/scrub and pick a time that works for you. And then stay tuned for next time, because we'll be dealing with the question, is MailerLite really number one in deliverability? Spoiler, the answer is yes and no.